Good afternoon. I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about a topic I'm calling the rules of the game have changed. Like any other game, life is a game that's played with rules. There's boundaries, there's limits to what you can do to stay in the game. And as long as everyone understands what the rules are, then the game is played and I guess like in any game, there's winners and losers. But the boundaries, the rules, the protocols, the social values, if the group as a whole agrees with those sets of boundaries, then the game is played and we learn how to interact with each other. I think in a much better place and on a better level. It's when the rules are changed that you have a little bit of an upset. And when the rules are changed unilaterally by one set of people, then the masses don't understand the full impact of this game and how it's played because someone just changed the rules. Things that we counted on, principles and values that we have built our society around. When someone comes along and changes those things, it puts an entire culture into a spin because things like freedoms and rights, and when they're taken away or challenged, it sends the entire population into a bit of a spin because this isn't how we've always done it. We've always believed that in the rights of an individual and their God-given freedoms, and but no, we've learned quite recently in these past 2 years that at least this generation is coming to understand it. Maybe previous generations have had this experience in another context, but we've just come to understand that our rights and freedoms can be taken away from us. And all you have to do is declare a national emergency of some sort, be it a pandemic or climate change, for Pete's sakes, can be actually declared as an emergency. And under the Emergencies Act of most countries, they can come in and confiscate property and bank accounts and whatever they need that you thought you owned and possessed, they can remove it and take it from you for the good of the larger population. So if individual liberties suffer, it's all done uh, under the guise of it benefiting the larger group. And that is largely the mindset that is being propagated by the globalist group. There's no such thing as national sovereignty of countries with borders. The world is slipping into or towards a place of globalism where we are all in this together. And it sounds very noble to hear it, but it's at what cost does this come? And who is to manage this? And that is when, how do you play a game when you have no say in what the rules are, but one side of the field calls all the shots in terms of what is going to be required to play this game? And that's what's happening right now. The players that are going to do this, there are elite individuals who are connected to elite societies, some of which are organizations like the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, and then you throw in all the different governments and collective global issues or initiatives, and you put all these people together, and the masses that can be convinced quite easily, we have found out, that it's necessary that individual rights and freedoms be taken away because we're setting some new rules down. This is what it's going to be. I think in the financial world right now is so fragile. and there are so many on so many platforms where they're about ready to crack, and that's going to have a global impact. And I don't think any country, which means I don't think there's any individuals in the world who aren't going to feel the uh, the impact of a collapsing financial system, which is right now is in terrible shape. The reset theory may be a little late to solve the larger problem, but we'll find out. There used to be a day, when we all had basic universal rules and values that we understood, um, and that came from old documents, i.e., the Ten Commandments in the Bible and other places where we got some of our laws and some of our values from. And the world wasn't perfect, never was perfect, but there was a functionality, there was a doability. We were surviving, knowing that there were certain parameters and boundaries that we had to basically live with, and there were some universal ones that we all agreed with. But those are being taken away and stripped away. Sometimes by entities we can't even put our finger on who's actually doing this, but nevertheless, the dialogue is happening. I remember the day when I was a younger child that when I was first introduced to the concept of politicians, and I'm thinking of Diefenbaker and some of these individuals that were around when I was a child, and we trusted politicians. When they got up and spoke about the status of the country or something that was happening or something had to be done for the good of Canada, I remember even then having a kind of naive faith in these individuals, thinking, yes, they know what's going on. I remember the day when you could trust your bank. If I go put that money in that bank account, I know that it's solid, it's safe, it's insured. In fact, it's got depositors insurance on it. And when people contributed to retirement plans, and so they have a pension plan that's growing and an RSP or whatever, well, I can count on that. That's protected. I can trust my bank or financial institution on that. I remember the day that we used to trust the clergy, and even in my own side of Christianity, which is the evangelicals. I mean, we trusted our pastors and spiritual leaders incredibly so when we were younger. We followed them, and we they were men of God and women of God, and we just trusted them. But as time has gone on, decade after decade, we've seen a really a new breed come out, and some strange doctrine, and it's come down to some of its actual heresy now, and that's in our own denominations, our own evangelical denominations. Then you look across the aisle to the Roman Catholic Church, and you see the pedophilia and homosexuality, and how priests have been abusing children for so long, and how the Vatican has actually protected and kept those secrets hidden. And I remember we used to trust. I remember Walter Cronkite. When Walter Cronkite came on TV and he made a statement, he was reporting the news. I remember when media and mainstream media was always reporting the news. It came without commentary, it came without opinion or any bias. They just reported the event, and you, the public, we, the watching audience, we were the ones to decide or determine for ourselves, you know, what's right and wrong here in terms of, how should we respond to this news item. Well, we always got the news straight. Today, mainstream media uh, is one of the most despicable institutions there is out there. They don't e- they don't nearly come close to even representing the integrity that was once shown on our TVs and in our newspapers back years and years ago when reporting was reporting. Today, it's all commentary, and it's all motivated by various agendas, some of which is money, and then other things, and power and political power, of course, and all that stuff. So you come right through it. I used to trust the medical profession. My doctor is a good friend of mine. But in as much indirectly, it was told to me that they couldn't very much or couldn't come out with any kind of freedom to comment on the state of affairs of the COVID pandemic and this thing they call a vaccine, which really isn't. I mean, it hasn't nearly been had enough human testing. It came out quickly. No one wants to assume any financial liability or responsibility for the impact or the damages that could happen because of the vaccine. It just never got the time to be tested properly. So the pharmaceutical companies and the governments involved don't want any financial responsibility. They want complete financial immunity from anyone getting sick or dying from the vaccine, and yet they're trying to impose it on us. I mean, we never saw these days when I was younger, and now you can see that we can't even trust the medical community anymore because pharmaceutical is so much a part of uh, what they how they do in terms of life and income, and you'll lose your license if you don't go along with the group. And there's plenty of science, thank God, out there that shows us other options and things, and there's voices that can't be bought so far. So you can see today that the rules, the boundaries, there's nothing stable or set in stone. We can't count on all those institutions for being what they used to be. It's all shaky ground. And so the reason I'm doing this video is not to give you a list of coming rules that you might have to be prepared for, or changes in the game plan. Just know this, that the game today has no fixed rules, certainly none of any kind of permanent nature. In other words, the rules can be changed overnight and unilaterally. In other words, without your opinion or voice. The rules can be changed. And there's really not an earthly entity, institution, or individual you can actually count on anymore in terms of integrity. We're just not finding it anywhere. And so people, I'm speaking to believers now, followers of Jesus Christ. All you have is the hope that he is coming. You trust the word of God, you trust the Holy Spirit, and you know that Jesus is coming soon. That's about the only thing, other than some maybe really close personal relationships you have with children or a spouse, or they're about the only things you can truly count on. But the rules are being changed on every other platform. And so, without knowing what those new rules are going to be, I'm here to tell you that you're living in that environment. Prepare yourself, psychologically and mentally, emotionally, for when these changes come, and they will be coming at you fast and furious, as all these different rules and boundaries that we once depended on and trusted, democracy and the owning of land and the owning of your own personal funds and bank accounts, and your when you understand that all those things can be taken away from you by a simple act in a parliament nowhere near you, then you need to understand that it's best for your it's in your best interest, let me put it that way, that you prepare yourself now, that you are living in an environment that can take away literally everything you think is important. They can change the rules. You need to hang on to things loosely. Be less uh, emotionally attached to things that can be taken away from you. Don't let it shake your faith. And God bless you. I just wanted you to know that the rules of the game are changing, and they're going to be changing, I suspect, to levels that you and I could have never imagined were going to be changed to. But even though those things come, because we prepared ourselves, knew we were living in this kind of an environment, we were somewhat ready for it and somewhat ready to help neighbors and friends who weren't expecting this. So God bless you. Have a great day. Bye bye.